moving on to the latest updates regarding the MrBeast situation. For those who don't know, I'll leave links down below to catch you up. There's been quite a lot of, because of course there would be, when I have no time to create a show, there'll be lots of updates on this story. We're going to do our best to cover them as best we can. We're going to first focus on two main videos specifically, which is the Soggy Cereal video and then the podcast with MrBeast himself in response, and where the crossover is. I will of course explain that as we move forward. We're first going to focus on the Soggy Cereal video though. So the first thing I would like to confirm, or like to talk about specifically, is that we got to hear more details and more kind of understanding, I guess, on what the Delaware situation really was. For those who don't know, it is alleged that MrBeast wrongly or rightly, as in by mistake or deliberately, depending on which side of the fence you believe or which side of the fence you're thinking about, hired a known sex offender, because the reason why his name is Delaware is because he can't go back there because of certain sexual misconduct allegations, and also being on the register, etc., that kind of thing. And what we heard was actually Dogpack claimed that the nickname was caused and was put into the organisation, but we also heard in Soggy's video from Dustin, who had worked for MrBeast for 6 years, and he said, quote, he wanted to set the record straight. He also said the company was growing very rapidly and it was just Jimmy and 2 or 3 friends, and he went to Best Buy to hire 3 more people as he needed the help, but one of them was named Delaware. The Best Buy called him that. We didn't make it up, and he ran the store. So I guess that Jimmy just thought if Best Buy thought he was good enough to manage a giant store, he's probably good enough to run a YouTube channel, right? And again, I'll be talking about this a little bit later when we talk about the podcast, but Jimmy did also confirm that. Now, should have Jimmy done a background check to make sure that he's not hiring a sexual predator? Absolutely. He was 19, company was scaling very, very quickly, so actually, arguably, that would be why, you could say, why it happened. Does that mean that he's at complete fault still now? I'll leave you to decide. But what it does mean is, I hate to teach people to suck eggs, but probably to check who you're hiring and probably do background checks on those people before you hire them. Don't be a dumb 19-year-old Jimmy, e.g. As Soggy claimed that MrBeast didn't do background checks, so of course that was stupid. Jimmy claimed that he made a mistake in the first place in hiring him. And from my understanding, when he was made aware of the situation, he then removed Delaware from the organisation as well, just for the record. Soggy also claimed about the claims that whenever he's in a video, he needs to wear a mask, followed by pointing out a few videos where Delaware was not wearing a mask. So Dogpack was claiming the only time this sexual predator was in videos he was wearing a mask, which is factually not true and has now been proven, and was proven specifically. There was some talk in the podcast about the fact that when the r/YouTube drama edit was talking about it, there would be some evidence posted and then it was being removed by the moderators, so that didn't really help the situation. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that later on when we talk about the podcast. Soggy also claimed that an ex-MrBeast employee was unknowingly recorded and then used in Dogpack's video. His name was Garrett. The ex-employee claimed that he had lost a lot of working relationships and, of course, the money that then goes along with that. So 95% of the time, if you're going to record someone, again, sucking eggs, you should probably inform them, right? So they're aware. And this is kind of some of the shitty behaviour that came out in regards to what was going on and what Dogpack was kind of playing. He used a really shitty voice changer, and apparently when the Dogpack video did come out from the Soggy video that I'll link down below, but also watched yesterday, there was, Garrett lost a lot of his contacts, and of course the money that then the relationships he was building and the relationships he had. So these are some of the quote unquote victims that were in that video that was caused by Dogpack specifically, and seems to be, and the more I look into this now with the full context of understanding the story and what Dogpack did, it looks more like Dogpack's trying to push a personal agenda as a pregruntled or pissed off employee, rather than trying to be the arbiter of truth, right? And that doesn't mean, of course, that MrBeast has done nothing wrong. As we've already alluded to, he did hire Delaware in the first place. He didn't do a background check. That's not good. But it was because the company was growing so quickly, and he wanted to and needed to get some more staff to help. Moving on to the claims regarding the war crime stuff, it was a joke, and the also was shown where Jack was. That's why I said it was alleged, showcasing and highlighting that he understood that he could leave at any time. Therefore, it could not have been a war crime because, of course, he is not a prisoner. Prisoners been having the lights left on was a big talking point about specifically was it a war crime, was it not a war crime. In Dogpack video they implied that it really was, and there was a lot of psychological pressure to mean that Jake was gonna have to stay in that room. But again, it's a volunteered challenge related game show where you can earn money, £10,000 a day as far as I know, or $10,000 a day, excuse me, and he could leave at any time, and he did, and then he kept the money, right? So I think that's a bit disingenuous. Again, Dogpack had also claimed that some two out of the 3 illegal lotteries within Soggy's video was then claimed to actually be completely legal, in regards to there was the clear you can join without having to purchase a t-shirt conversation, which I think was really important. The third one at the moment is still a question mark, and is still the first one is still a question mark on whether and how it is actually illegal or not. And from what MrBeast says in the podcast, he says that he's got a team looking into it, so he doesn't really know specifically. There's been a lot of kind of pushback and a lot of saying that interview specifically wasn't very good, and I'll be talking about that towards the end. But very quick synopsis, I think it's just a clear interview, and yes, you could push people more, but the whole point of having an interview is to gain, firstly, understanding and knowledge, and when you get more evidence, to then retroactively and critically think about that evidence to then potentially change your side, quote unquote, because there's a lot of the internet that's very upset because the commentary community isn't taking a side, right? I think the truth, or the emphasis, should be on what is true and where the wrongdoing has been done, rather than what side you're on, and potentially if you swap sides, right? I think for me it's more important to talk about the truth rather than I'm picking a side. Welcome to YouTube drama. There we go. Soggy also pointed out in this video as well why a handful of other claims weren't true, as the context was quote unquote to fix them, right? So I'll give you an example. The dog food one, again, more added context, wasn't technically true. There was no wrongdoing there. All got sorted out. The Feastables bar, the gram specifically, that he was comparing the sugar amounts specifically, wasn't the same, right? King size bar versus regular bar. Of course the sugar's going to be different. Of course the calories are going to be different. Of course it's double the size. His claims that a car was lifted in post didn't happen. It wasn't closed and was completely debunked as well. The one thing they did do though was change a red car to be a blue car, because they were concerned that audiences wouldn't be able to distinguish the difference between the two cars. So they did do that. And while we're talking about CG as well, apparently the pit they crashed a train into in a MrBeast video, and the shredder and things like that, they are all true, not CG, even though that's what Dogpack claimed. There was a couple of conversations around why there's maybe some CG used, and 95% of cases it was to do with safety, because you can't, funnily enough, have a load of camera people in the bottom of a pit to film a train come through, and then potentially it go wrong and kill people, or, for example, have a load of on-screen talent on a raft during a lightning storm that could kill them, so you needed to take them off it whilst the lightning storm passed, for example. I'll leave Soggy's video down below, just a couple of examples of those things. More seriously, though, proving that Dogpack claimed that Ivanka Trump's video was clearly CP, was claiming that she was 13 in the video, in the image, when the image has since been proven to be that she was 18 and she was doing it for a magazine shoot. Also, the claim that Dogpack, when we talked about the leaked videos or the leaked messages as well, Dogpack also showed and proved that the chat in question was not a work chat. It was a not safe for work memes chat that then Ava kind of took over and didn't really want it to be used as a work chat, so you can't really count that as a work chat either. So technically that was another lie. There's been a lot of conversation around the anime, and apparently the anime community wasn't very happy with the claims that a romantic relationship between a 26-year-old and a 13-year-old took place. Apparently the story actually, with more added context, I'm not into anime, I don't know, but the added context was she was selling herself in the story, and the 26-year-old had another romantic interest on the side, and was trying to help this 13-year-old get over her past trauma and stop then selling herself. So apparently that's the storyline there. There was also some claims as well that were also debunked by an old man not quote-unquote winking, and this was CGI. Why you would go to that trouble, I don't know, but there we go. Between the 101 to 100 video and the fact that someone also won £1 million from MrBeast helped him by giving him a passive income. This was the gentleman who actually did win it from holding his hand on the case of money, and apparently he didn't invest, but there was a very sneaky cut because the guy paused in the video and then he says, well, actually, no, MrBeast did help me. MrBeast, basically, from what it's been basically validated by MrBeast and some staff from MrBeast as well, specifically, they were looking at the fact that they basically added him onto a passive payroll to then be in a position where they could just passively pay him, because there was a lot of conversation and people who have won the lottery. MrBeast talks about this in the podcast interview, where many people have gone back to being poverty because of that lifestyle shift that happens when lots of people come into lots of money, hence the passive income to help him get back on his feet, etc., or carry on being on his feet in that respect as well. As well as there was claims about why MrBeast had removed Slave Free from Feastables' website, and etc. And this was a large conversation around actually how chocolate is sourced and how it's made in that respect. So the crux was more around changing the emphasis around export free rather than slave free, and paying chocolate farmers the Pacific living wage, specifically in regards to that living wage and how they go about doing that. And they worked with a larger company to be able to do that as well. In regards to the rocket that was meant to send some memes to a room, number one, wrong kind of clip of a rocket was used in the Dogpack video, completely invalidating and implying something very different. Number two, it is apparently going to happen, and they're using a bigger rocket, and the first one failed, but the second one, in theory, won't. So that was debunked as well. In regards to talking about the reasoning behind why a percentage of staff from MrBeast's employees and also his girlfriend was used in the 100 boys, 100 girls issues, very simple. There was nearly a COVID outbreak on the set. He did it for safety. Everyone had to do that, and the girls needed their numbers ranked up a little bit because a load came down with COVID. So this was also released around the peak of COVID as well. And MrBeast's girlfriend came out on a podcast talking about it shortly afterwards, and apparently that missed, or Dogpack just didn't mention that. and implied deliberately that it was something else. Dogpack also claimed that a video didn't even take place. Soggy Cereal in his video actually interviews a member of the 24 people in a circle go after or go for $1 million. The reason why the video never got posted was due to the fact that COVID within the crew first time round, followed by nearly everyone getting COVID again when they tried to film it again, to the point where, by the sound of it, they just said, fuck it, broke the $1 million into 24 and gave it to those who took part as a compensation, taken off work, etc., etc. So it was around $10,000-ish each in that respect. Soggy also did a deep dive trying to understand Dogpack himself, and where his, quote, hate or love, depending, his love-hate relationship with MrBeast actually was or came from. From what I can tell personally from listening to his video, it sounds like he was clearly pissed off or clearly upset that he was fired from his, quote, dream job, so to speak. Soggy also went to MrBeast's HQ to talk to a handful of people that worked with Dogpack, one of which being Emily, a co-worker who, quote, felt uncomfortable. We also heard from the hiring manager who wrote the no does not mean no claim. She claimed that it was a selling technique on the idea, and of course wasn't what the internet instantly jumped to, and it was slightly dodgy in that respect as well. And it was more around the concept of finding a creative, finding the problem, from what it sounds like anyway, finding the problem that whatever the person they're trying to talk to do the video. So, for example, they're trying to put cranes up. Why can't the cranes happen, etc.? Why can't we film in a store? I think was the example in the actual document, etc. To find ways around it as a sales technique to still make things happen. MrBeast's justification for this, I suppose, is that he's doing things that has never been done before. So you have to come up with creative ways to fix those problems. Dogpack's manager also says in an interview that they, if Dogpack had, worked there for longer than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, which is what it sounds like he had actually worked there for, then he would have known that one of their objectives is to age up the content, e.g. make it more reliable or more likely that people of an older age group are going to enjoy or going to want to consume MrBeast content. Near the end of the video, Soggy does go into prove that, as I said earlier, the first illegal lottery was illegal still, and MrBeast needs to be held accountable for that. As I alluded to in the podcast, he does talk about that, and he has a team trying to pull the footage and look into that. So in a world where there is some more updates on that, I'll be sure to let you know. Also, a couple of other things I think are important to mention to not let MrBeast off the hook here as well is that he does change on his ad reads, allegedly. Again, I can kind of validate it to an extent from what I've seen and what I've looked into, but can't 100% validate it. On some of his ad reads, he will speed up the bar at the bottom of the screen to imply it's going to be over sooner rather than later, and then slow it down at the end, so it's actually going to be the same amount of time. Slight manipulation on viewership there. So, probably shouldn't do that, Jimmy, if you're somehow watching my tiny channel. Just saying, just be transparent with what the ad is and who you sell it for. Everyone understands your videos cost a lot of money. There you go.